Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Bob's Live, our weekly show right here on the internet. And well, this week I've got a couple different things for us. The first is an update on what's happening out in the greenhouse, specifically with our construction project that we have going on at the upper end of Mason. So the last time we were up there was actually last winter, kind of in the springtime, and a lot has changed since then. So I thought up first we would head out to the greenhouse and see what's happening. Today I'm here at a place where I haven't been for a while, at least in a Bob's Market update. And this is our newest greenhouse here at the upper end of Mason. The last time we were up here was back in the springtime of last year when we had some of the first crops in this greenhouse. But at that time we were operating everything manually, and now we actually have some systems online, but we're also working to bring other systems online, like the boiler system and the irrigation system. So let's walk around and take a look at some of the things that's changed since we've been up here last. So just like last spring, we do have some fern hanging baskets in here, which they're being watered using a drip irrigation system that we turn off and on manually. Since the last time we were up here, we've got the tubing in for the boilers, and each one of these valves will connect up with a bit of PEX tubing that loops down through the floor. And then these all come together and connect into the main headers up above that go back to the boiler room. And the headers outside coming from the boilers run back in to here, where they make their way over into our natural gas. Be having some upload issues. Let me know in the comments if it's choppy. And anyhow, here on Bob's Live, there's multiple ways to watch it. You can catch it live on Facebook and on YouTube, and you can also watch archived episodes of Bob's Live over on our website at bobsmarket.com. And of course, we're live every Tuesday at 5 p.m. So the main thing that I wanted to talk about this week is propagating plants. And a few weeks ago, we propagated or started propagating some pothos vine, and I'm doing that in water here in my office. So I can actually jump over to a camera view right here, and there we can see the pothos. So Patty's saying, yeah, that was choppy and kept saying waiting for signal. So yeah, I'm not sure what was happening. But here is the pothos that I started propagating, and you can see some healthy root growth out of some of them. So this one right here has a nice long root, and well, everything's backwards here in the camera. And this one has some roots coming out of the bottom of it. So it's going to take a few more weeks. This one right here with the really long root, that you can see right there, it's kind of white compared to the green stalk behind it. It actually has some little nodes on the root where the root is getting ready to branch. So once it starts to do that, I'll feel pretty confident about transplanting it. But this week, I want to take a look at transplanting. Let me get back to a camera that's me. I wanted to talk about propagating snake plant. So snake plants are also really easy to propagate. In fact, it's probably even easier than pothos. So if you have a snake plant at home, it's really easy to take cuttings from it and make more snake plants. And all that you need is some items from around your kitchen. So let's take a look. Sometimes in the course of doing Bob's Live, I get messages through Facebook and YouTube. And last year, after doing an episode where I talked about snake plants, I got a message and I was gifted this snake plant that needed a home. And well, I am here in my kitchen, kind of in the space between my kitchen and my living room. And that's where this snake plant now calls home. And it is the perfect plant to have kind of in your kitchen space because it is nature's air purifier. So it soaks up all those odors and everything that you have in the kitchen and makes the air nice and clean. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can propagate snake plants using just some kitchen supplies. So when it comes to supplies, all that we need is a wide mouth mason jar, a cutting board, a knife, and some water, which I just happen to put in a watering can. So let's go ahead and get started. So up first, I need to take a few cuttings. And what I'm planning on doing is getting a few cuttings off of pieces that are damaged. And I don't want to get diseased pieces. And fortunately, I don't really see any disease issues in the snake plant. But I do have a couple stalks here that have broken off at some point. So I'm going to cut these off just a little bit closer down, and that'll make the plant look just a little bit better. And I'm also going to get one that's kind of sticking off to the side, and it is just kind of growing out into the room and becoming unruly. Alright, so now all that I need to do is plant up our snake plant, basically in some water. And what I'm looking to do is go about yay long with each cutting. So I want to go about like that. And I'm also going to cut a little bit of an angle at each cut, and that'll just help hold it up off of the bottom of the jar. I feel kind of like I'm cooking. And this brown end here, I'm going to leave it because it'll be just fine. Now, even with the wider section of these leaves, I can still do the exact same method. and cut us some strips. And if we're lucky, they'll take root. And now I just need to kind of organize these a little bit. Some of them are in there at some pretty crazy angles. But it's not really all that important. The main thing is to make sure that at least the bottom of them is covered in water. So we'll add some water in. I'm going to go about halfway up the side. And then I'm going to stick this in a sunny windowsill. And every few days I'm going to have to check the water and make sure to top off the water. And here in a few weeks, we should get some roots. And once we start getting good root growth, then it'll be time to transplant them up. And once we transplant them, it might take a while, but eventually little snake plant pups will start growing from these cuttings. So there we have it. That is how easy it is to propagate snake plant. And you can either take little tiny cuttings like that, or you can take the entire leaf and chop it off and get it to grow. In fact, I have one right here in my office sitting on the floor behind me that I started just like that. I took the large leaf part that had broken off. In fact, it came off that plant that I was taking cuttings from in the video. And I put it in some water here in my office before I took that plant home and grew roots on it. And then I just stuck it in a plant where I have some in a planter where I have some pothos and some ZZ plants. And it's just sort of a mixed bag in that planter. And now it is growing and it's starting to put out little shoots beside of it. So I think that planter is going to be really cool once it fills in right here behind my desk. So I might do a video on it someday. I'm sitting here pointing to it and it's off camera and you can't see it. So that doesn't really help. But hey, I've got an idea here. Hang with me for just a second. I was using this camera earlier. It is still plugged in. And, oh no. Don't drop the expensive webcam. Okay. I grabbed the webcam right here so we can do some inception and take a look at what I'm talking about. So let me switch to the other camera view. There we go. Hey, that's a view you haven't seen before. But right here's the planter that I'm talking about, and don't mind my messy bookshelf that I need to organize. So in this planter, I have pothos and some ZZ plant, and then you can see the one little snake plant sticking up there. And it is just now starting to put out little shoots. And my cord isn't very long on this camera, so if I scoot that out of the way, and of course my arm is covering it up, you can see the other little shoot right here. So that is a little baby snake plant. So yeah, there we go. Let me get back to the other camera now. That's better. That's a little less awkward. But yeah, propagating plants is pretty easy and it can be pretty fun too. It just takes a lot of experimenting. And that's the great thing about it. You take these cuttings and I know if I hold these up where I'm in front of the green screen, they'll be, yeah, they're practically completely invisible. That doesn't help at all. Um, but you know, you can take a bunch of cuttings and start trying to propagate them. If a few take and root really well, you get new plants out of it. So it's one of those things where you can kind of take a shotgun approach to it and do a bunch of cuttings and then pick the best ones to replant. So it's something that's dead simple and fun, is water propagating. So yeah, grab you a ZZ plant or some pothos or some snake plants or Christmas cactuses. There is just a whole laundry list of house plants that you can propagate this way. So it's definitely worth doing some research into and checking out if you have houseplants, because it's really easy to make more and you can fill up your house with houseplants. Let me go back to the crazy cam for just a second. That's what I might rename this camera. But yeah, over my head right here, right behind me, that is pothos that I have taken cuttings of. And you can see it, it's going over top of the green screen. So normally when I'm not doing Bob's Live, this green screen, it rolls up behind me. And I've got that pothos just snaking along the top of it. And then over here, coming out of that same pot, over on the other side of my computers, I've got that one going along the ceiling. And then also, coming out of the pot that I just showed you down here, I have another vine that's going all the way across where all of my houseplants are, right there. And it goes all the way over to that corner where the door is. And then, I'm not done propagating, because right behind me right here, I have another pothos that I took from the same planter, and I started it. So it starts over here in the corner, goes up along the side of my whiteboard, and then it goes over across my desk and around that way, and that's some post-it notes that you probably shouldn't see. But yeah, it is really easy to propagate plants. And let's go back to a normal camera view now. And well, I am going to end this week's show right here. And well, yeah, I'm just looking at the comments. I think I've addressed all of those. Since the greenhouse video was kind of choppy and it was going in and out, let's take another shot at it. So I'm going to play it as kind of our closing video this week. So that way you can see what's going on uptown. So let's check that out. And Judy says, you definitely have a green thumb, John. Well, if anybody that knows me, they always say that I take after my grandfather. So he was the green thumb, and he taught me a lot about gardening. And you know, this job is kind of the perfect union of both of my specialties. So there we go. And well, until next time, keep growing. Today I'm here at a place where I haven't been for a while, at least in a Bob's Market update. And this is our newest greenhouse here at the upper end of Mesa. The last time we were up here was back in the springtime of last year, when we had some of the first crops in this greenhouse. But at that time we were operating everything manually, and now we actually have some systems online, but we're also working to bring other systems online, like the boiler system and the irrigation system. So let's walk around and take a look at some of the things that's changed since we've been up here last. So just like last spring, we do have some fern hanging baskets in here, which they're being watered using a drip irrigation system that we turn off and on manually. Since the last time we were up here, we've got the tubing in for the boilers, and each one of these valves will connect up with a bit of PEX tubing that loops down through the floor. And then these all come together and connect into the main headers up above that go back to the boiler room. And the headers outside coming from the boilers run back in to here, where they make their way over into our natural gas boilers. Also running along the floor, we have the irrigation lines in, which they run down to each location, where they go into this blue piping, which goes up into this big spaghetti monster of pipes, which go into our automated watering booms, which they run on a track in the ceiling down the entire length of the greenhouse. And directly across from the boiler room, we have our water treatment room that's starting to take shape. So we're going to pull in water here and treat it, and then it'll get sent out to the irrigation system. And ultimately, here is what we're working toward. Some of the first seedling plugs in this greenhouse.